All right, well, back to the bike. So again, SV1000S, which has been rebuilt, and you might see that this is a naked bike, so it does not look normally like an S. That's because this thing had been trashed when I first got it. I purchased it from the towing company that had brought it in, and then no one wanted to come pick it up because the thing was just so damaged in the wreck. And the story was that sort of a young guy had it and was driving it on this curvy road and didn't have lights on, and I'll tell you why in a second, but he didn't have lights on, and he actually ran into a parked state trooper who was on the side of the road clocking people who also did not have his lights on. So that was probably a bad day for that kid. Oh, and the story on the headlights. So whenever I got this thing, the headlights, were actually gutter guards stretched across the broken front fairing. That was already broken before it was crashed its last time, mind you. So the fairing was already broken, the lights were already done for. So whoever had it took out the lights, stretched metal gutter guard mesh across the front end, and zip-tied fog lights from the parts store to it. And oh yeah, they didn't work because of the crap wiring job they did. So that's probably why the guy was riding at night with no lights. He didn't want to come claim the bike. He didn't have the money to pay for the towing bill or for the repairs or whatever. Probably because he was paying his tickets from that stupid thing he did. So whenever I got it, it was hard to even tell what bike it was. The thing had been spray painted several different times, completely, like the engine case and everything. It's still spray painted because it was just too much of a pain for me to clean up. It was spray painted a sparkly black color. Whenever I got it, so they painted over the turn signals and everything. It was terrible. And around the tank, where gasoline had run down the tank and obviously eaten through the spray paint, I could see that it had been spray painted blue as well, on top of the factory orange paint that is the standard Suzuki orange that came on this. So whenever I got it, I started looking at all the things, what I was going to do. Could I actually put it back to stock, or was I going to go with some kind of mod? And just looking at the cost to fully repair it, it wasn't worth it. For what I actually paid for the bike and for the cost to put it back to stock with the, the stock fairings and putting the headlights and everything back on it, it just wasn't worth it. So I decided to go with a naked treatment, and perfectly honest, it's a ton of eBay parts on this thing. I rebuilt it for as cheap as possible because I'd never ridden before. I didn't know if I was going to dump a couple grand into this thing, making it right, and then not enjoy riding and take a big loss. So I went inexpensive route just to make sure everything was good. And I got, decent parts. I've got everything tried out. But things like the front controls, in order to get the factory front controls on this thing, because, you've got hydraulic, front brakes, obviously, but you've also got a hydraulic clutch on this one. So in order to get all those parts from Suzuki, it was going to be like $600 just for the front controls. Some of the things I did, I had to convert it over to a single front light. As you can see, I had to add some turn signals because I don't have any more fairings. I had to make a special mount for the speedometer because that actually mounts in the fairing stay, which is no longer here. Had to replace the front controls. I went ahead and did all the maintenance. I replaced the chain, the sprockets, the brake pads, bled the lines. I've got new rear sets because the rear sets were damaged in the crash. Bar end mirrors because the mirrors were on the fairings. Actually had to change the ignition switch and all of the locks because the original key was lost whenever I first got it. Now it turns out about a week after I got all this stuff in and installed on the bike, I got a call from the towing company saying, hey, we found a key for that bike if you need it. It's like, yeah, thanks for that, I appreciate it. Would have been nice to have that a while ago. But I went through, I actually rebuilt the front shocks because they were leaking, so I put new seals in that, checked everything, put some AMSOIL fluid in, set up all the suspension with the proper damping and preload. And I did a little bit of work to the engine. I disabled the pair system, set the valve lash and all, because I wasn't sure how long it had been since any of that happened. Standard maintenance stuff.